If you're 55 and sitting on $2 million, you might be feeling hopeful, but also a little nervous. You've done the saving, you've built up your nest egg, but now comes the harder part, figuring out if it's actually enough to walk away from work for good. Because here's the truth, there's no magic number that guarantees retirement success. I've worked with people who had $2 million and were still anxious, and others who had less than half of that who retired with total peace of mind. So what's the difference? It's not just about how much you save, it's about how you've structured your income, how flexible your plan is, and whether you've stress tested the things that could go wrong. So in this video, I'm going to help you figure out if you can retire at 55 with $2 million, not based on a guess, not based on a calculator, but based on a real plan, one that works in the real world. Hi, I'm Mark Wisniewski, president of Southern Incomes. If you're thinking about retiring early, this video will help you figure out whether you're truly ready, not based on a number, but based on a plan. If you find this helpful, like and subscribe. Now let's dive in. Part 1, why $2 million doesn't guarantee retirement success. Let me say this right up front. $2 million is a strong financial position. There's no question on that. You've done the right things to get there. But here's the part most people don't hear enough. That number on its own doesn't tell you if you're ready. You see, I work with people who had $2 million, still felt anxious about running out of money, and others who had less than $1 million and were completely at peace because they had a plan. The numbers look great on a statement, but retirement isn't about accumulating a number. It's about turning that number into income that lasts for the rest of your life. And when you retire at 55, that might mean 35 or even 40 years without a paycheck. That's a lot of life to fund. And it introduces a few challenges that your savings alone won't solve. Where's your income coming from between now and age 67 or 70? You don't get Social Security until 62, and full benefits don't kick in until later. Medicare doesn't start until 65. So there's a long stretch where your portfolio carries the full load. How are you invested? If your $2 million is sitting in a portfolio that's too aggressive, you could be exposed to major losses right when you start withdrawing. If it's too conservative, it might not keep up with inflation, and your purchasing power erodes over time. How are you withdrawing? A random 4% withdrawal rule won't cut it. Not when tax brackets, market conditions, and income sources all shift over time. The sequence of withdrawals, where you take the money from and when, is just as important as the withdrawal rate itself. How about taxes? If the bulk of your money is in pre-tax accounts like traditional IRAs or 401ks, you may face a big tax bill later on, especially once those required minimum distributions or RMDs kick in. That $2 million might not be worth as much as it looks on paper. And that's not even touching inflation, healthcare costs, longevity risks, which all only grow as you retire earlier and live longer. So when someone says, Mark, I've hit $2 million, am I good to go? My response is always something like, well, that depends on how your income plan is structured, not just how much you've saved. Because here's the honest truth. A number gives you potential. A plan is what gives you freedom. And when you build a plan around $2 million, taking into account taxes, timing, spending flexibility, and risk management, you start to see what's actually possible. Sometimes that means you are ready. Other times it means a few small changes can make a big difference without adding another dollar to your savings. Part 2, 3 key questions you must answer first. Before I ever tell someone if they can retire at 55, especially with $2 million, I walk them through 3 essential questions. Why? Because these 3 answers shape everything that follows. Your income strategy, your tax plan, your risk tolerance, even your retirement timeline. Let's break them down one by one. Question 1, what will you spend and what's flexible? It might sound simple, but this is where most people get it wrong. They guess and they round numbers. They say things like, well, we probably spend about $100,000 a year. But when we go line by line by line through the past year's expenses, that number often looks very different. So I ask, what does life actually cost you? Not when you're working, but when you're retired. That means subtracting out things like commuting and work-related expenses, 401k and HSA contributions you're not saving anymore, payroll taxes, and adding in things like health insurance premiums before Medicare, travel, hobbies, and other lifestyle upgrades. How about home projects that you've been putting off? Now, here's the second layer, and it's even more important. Which expenses are essential and which are flexible? Let's say you want to spend, $120,000 per year. If $80,000 of that covers your fixed costs, that's your housing, food, healthcare, and the other 40 grand is for travel and for fun, you've built in flexibility. That means in a tough year, you can cut back without putting your entire plan at risk. And that flexibility, that's what makes your plan resilient. Question 2, what are your income sources and when do they start? Most people think retirement income means drawing from investments, but a real income plan is more than that. So I ask clients, what guaranteed income will you have and when will it begin? This might include Social Security, pension benefits, rental income, business income, annuities. And let's say you have $2 million and you want to retire at 55. That's great, but Social Security doesn't start for at least 7 years, and Medicare, it's still 10 years away. So the question becomes, can your portfolio cover that income gap? And how will your withdrawal strategy shift once those benefits do kick in? I worked with one couple recently where one spouse delayed Social Security to age 70, the maximum age, and the other started at 67. That gave them $72,000 in guaranteed income later in life, which completely changed how we treated their early withdrawal needs. The timing of your income streams matters just as much as the overall amount. Question 3, what's your plan if something goes wrong? No one likes thinking about this part, but it separates a good plan from a fragile one. I always ask the question, what will you do if the market drops 25% in your first year of retirement? Because that's not just a bad break, it's a risk with a name. Sequence of return risk. If you're forced to sell investments in a down market to fund your lifestyle, your portfolio may not recover, and the earlier in retirement this happens, and the harder it hits. So what's the backup? Some clients are willing to cut discretionary spending temporarily. Others plan to tap, a cash bucket, or shift withdrawals to fixed income side of their portfolio. Some keep part-time work as an option. The point isn't to avoid all risk. That's impossible. The point is to know what adjustments you're willing to make if the unexpected happens. Because the people who retire with confidence aren't just those with the most money. They're the ones with a plan that they trust and the flexibility to course correct when their life changes. These 3 questions, how much do you spend, what income will you have, and what's your backup plan, they form the foundation of your retirement readiness. Once you have clear answers, you can stop guessing and start planning. Part 3, 3 smart adjustments that strengthen the plan. Once we've answered the big 3, spending, income, and flexibility, it's time to make the plan even stronger, because even if your numbers look good on paper, retirement is real life. Markets don't move in a straight line. Life doesn't follow a spreadsheet, and the best retirement plans are built to adapt, not just to look good in year 1. Here are 3 adjustments I walk many of my clients through, especially those retiring early. Adjustment number 1, right-size your spending over time. Most calculators assume you'll spend the same amount every year until age 90 or even 95, but that's not how real retirement works. What I see over and over again is what we call the retirement smile. Spending is high in the early years, travel, hobbies, home improvement. Then it gradually declines in the middle years, less travel, more routine. Then it may rise again in later years as healthcare needs grow. So one of the first adjustments I make is to mirror this arc in the plan. For example, a client couple wanted to spend $120,000 per year starting at 55. But after walking through their goals, we adjusted it like this: $120,000 per year from 55 to 65, then $100,000 per year from 65 to 80, and finally, a small bump to the account for healthcare or assisted living costs. That change made their plan more more resilient, and it increased their likelihood of long-term success based on our projections. It's not about spending less, it's about spending smarter and matching your plan to how people actually live. Adjustment number 2, reduce risk, then add it back later. Here's something most retirees don't hear enough. You don't need to stay ultra-conservative forever, but in the first 5 to 10 years of retirement, you need to protect against the wrong market at the wrong time. That's called sequence risk, and it's one of the biggest threats for early retirees. If your portfolio drops 25% in your first year of retirement and you're pulling money out at the same time, it's a double hit that can permanently shrink your savings. So what do? We start with a more conservative allocation, usually something like, say, 60% to equities and 40% to fixed income or cash equivalents. This gives you a safe side of the portfolio to draw from when the markets are down, so you don't have to even touch the equities at all. Then, once you're out of that danger zone, typically 10 years in, we slowly increase your stock exposure again. That helps your portfolio grow for later years when inflation and healthcare start to rise again. This is called rising equity glide path, and research shows it may reduce failure rates for your early retirees. The goal isn't to avoid risk, the goal is to time it well. Adjustment number 3, use the tax code to unlock more flexibility. If you're retiring at 55, chances are most of your savings are probably in tax-deferred accounts like traditional IRAs or 401ks. But here's the problem. Those accounts come with a silent partner, the IRS. Every dollar you pull out is taxed as income. And when you hit 73, required minimum distributions, or RMDs, start forcing you to withdraw whether you need the money or not, often pushing you into higher tax brackets later on in life. So here's the move. This may be an ideal window to explore Roth conversions between 55 and 67. Many early retirees are in the lowest tax brackets they've seen in years. That's a window to convert some money from an IRA to a Roth IRA, paying taxes now at 10 to 12%, but avoiding higher rates later on. And those Roth dollars then grow tax-free. They withdraw tax-free, and they don't count against you for things like IRM, AA, Medicare surcharges, or even Social Security taxation. I've seen clients use this approach to reduce the impact of RMD-driven taxes significantly in the future. That's the real flexibility, and it starts with a plan. The big idea, small adjustments made early can change the whole picture. You don't need a perfect portfolio. You do need a plan that's aligned with how and when you spend, where your risks are, and how you're taxed along the way. That's what makes $2 million work for some people and feel like not enough for others. So is $2 million enough to retire at 55? It can be, but it all depends on your structure. If you don't have a plan for how to spend it, how to protect it, and how to stretch it out over 30 or 40 years, even a large number can feel fragile. But if you've answered the right questions, if you've built in flexibility, adjusted for taxes, and stress tested your income strategy, then yes, that $2 million has the potential to support a confident, purpose-filled retirement, depending on how it's structured. Here's the key. It's not about hitting a number. It is about building a plan that fits your life, not someone else's rules of thumb. If you want help designing that plan, one that's tailored to your spending, taxes, timing, and goals, book a complimentary call with me using the link in the description.